Okay, good evening. Let's start with traditional question, checking of audio and video signal. Okay, if signal is okay, let's check our homework. So let's start from most simple functions till more complicated. So the first one that is here counted here as mandatory function get. So when we usually use array, we're storing elements inside and we need somehow to get them. So storing without possibility to get value, that sounds not really logic. So okay, we can put values here, but we now need a function that will so we can get value outside this list by an index, just like from array. So let's define this function. So this function name here, it is already defined. Here EE, it's index. So we will get value from inner array by index from parameter. So what does it mean in Java? We have public function that will return some value from array because we are storing ints, so the return value type will be int. Function name is get, defined in specification, and we have parameter by which index we need to get an element. So index always is of type int, and here I have named this parameter. Okay, let's open and close these curly braces. So currently compiler says that it's not very legal because we do not have return statement. So in function, when we have something not void, we need to write a return statement. And actually we can do it here in one line. So we can already return value from our inner array by index. So really that's all necessary for this function. So here is our array where we store all data, and here is the index. So actually this function get is as simple as getting value from array by index. The only additional check here is needed to be safe about the value of index. So we cannot get value from array if this index is out of bounds that out of size of this array. So index cannot be negative and cannot be more than array size. So if we have array of length 10, so we cannot get element by index 20, 30, and so on. So let's write here additional check. If index is less than 0 or index is more than so okay, so let's start with this, but later we will change. Okay, so I can just so I'll just copy this this special instruction. So we will talk about exceptions much later. For now, that's just a command to Java virtual machine to stop working if such happens. So it's not legal to so getting element from array by incorrect index will anyway cause an exception. So, but here we have wrapped this exception with our own, but that's I just wanted from you to write these additional checks. But here, that's not really, in our case, that's not really correct. Not really correct because our array, so let's get back to our Excel. So sometimes this array have free slots, so unused. So that's not real. So if we are if someone is asking to get value from array from this slot, but it is, however, it physically exists, but it is unused. So that's also not really correct. So what? So let's run. Okay. So here we need to check if this index by which we want to take element from array is not bigger than real size of array. So this one. So here we have a problem. Our parameter is called index, and this instance field is called index. So how to distinguish them? With keyword this. So this, so just index. Here it is index that came from parameter. This dot index. Here it is. It's even highlighted in different colors. So parameter is just here we have just a black text. Here index is semi-bold and purple. So this is instance field, and this is parameter. So that's like just like a regular variable. So here it's how looks this function get. Now let's get back to our list launcher. So let's take I will not test the values that comes outside of these indexes because anyway we will get exception and our program will stop. So let's get some legal value, for example this one. So let's count indexes. 0, 1, 2, 3. Okay. Awesome list dot get, and index is 3. Let's call it value by index, and let's just print it to be sure that so just for testing purposes. Let's run. Okay, value by the index is 7, so looks like this function works correct. So if you do not have this function or it differs from mine, so please rewrite this function and let me know. So then we will continue. So here I'll just put extra new line. Okay, I guess that this line is not really clear or looks a little bit complicated. Am I right? Okay, then let's make things less complicated. So let's rename this variable just to, for example, so uh, how to rename some variable. Shift and F6 key combination we have. So maybe you will need this function key on your laptop if you are using laptop. So, but most probably it will be Shift and F6. Here I choose rename code occurrences and press enter and change this value to, for example, IDX. Or you can do it by hands. So now things will become less complicated. So the main idea was how we are getting values from array. So usually we have some we have some array, for example, uh, new int like this. And when we need to get value from this array by some index, what we have written this. By index from array. So actually, this value will be same as here. So let me prove you. So we have the same contents of this array inside our awesome list 53273. Let's run this code. So they are the same. So that's how we are getting value from array by index. So we're just simply writing array name, opening square brackets, and writing index. So index, this ordinal number of element in array. So here we're performing the same. The only difference is that this number is taken from here. So when we are writing here awesomelist.get, this 3 from here will come here inside this variable idx. So I can prove you this with debug. So idx is equal to 3 because we have written this 3 here. So when we are calling this function, here it is our parameter. 3 comes here. And now here what we are doing, we are checking if this parameter is legal. So if this index is less than 0, that's illegal operation. Array index cannot be never less than 0. And the second problem that might occur when index is bigger than array size. So if I'll try to do something like that, I will get an exception because our array is of length of real length 5. So here I am checking this, but I'm not checking like this because we have inner array or a little bit different lengths. So here we can have we have bigger array than we have real values inside. So we have some extra free values. That's because I am using not array length, but this index variable that shows where is our real current and last element. Oh, so it shows us real lengths of array of. It doesn't show us real lengths of array. It shows us some let's call it logical lengths of array. So how much elements we are storing inside. So it's illegal in our case to ask to get value that is bigger than this one. We cannot take value from this unused array slot. So that's why we're writing here index. So the only problem here was when we have the same value, the same variable name for parameter and instance variable, we need to somehow distinguish them. And this is achieved by using keyword this. So this dot index always shows us to this instance variable. If we are not doing this, it will be used here as a variable or just parameter. So, but we have changed this value to another, and now the things became less complicated. So this is parameter that we're taking from here, and index still shows the same. So it's instance variable. So if so, it's better to name these parameters you are using in some another way than instance variables to so to not let such situations occur. Okay, it is now everything clear with get function, how it works. Okay, let's continue with some other functions. So, okay, size. So I have seen some homework implementations and saw some unoptimal solutions for this. Okay, public int size. So I have seen something like counting in a loop how much elements do we have inside this array. So okay, this can be done, but really, do you, for example, here, how much elements do we have in our collection? Okay, on this line. So this X stands for some free slots. So question is how much elements do we have here inside this collection? Okay, 5. Great. And what is the value of this uh, insertion index here? No, we do not have 8 elements because these are unused. So 8 minus 3 will give us 5, or we can just count something that's not equal to unused slots. So this will, no, this will not be 4. Let's count together. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, we have 5 elements inside, and this variable value is also 5. So that gives us a solution. So simply as that. Let's check. So I see that we have entered, so we have put 5 values inside, and well, current size is really 5. So please rewrite this function implementation and this calling code. So theoretically, we are using this variable as an insertion index when we are adding new element. But it has really the same numeric value of current collection size. So when we start, our collection is empty and index is equal to 0. So collection if collection is empty, its size is equal to 0, logically, yes? And when we're adding value, this index is increased by 1. So how much times we have added elements inside, so much we have increased this index by 1. So technically this variable is necessary for a little bit different purposes, but its actual value also shows the collection size. So we can just use it as a size indicator. Is it clear with this? Okay, that's why I have answered that you can uh, very optimize this function implementation. So okay, and liked longer version. So your further colleagues will teach that the easiest solution is the best, and the best solution of all, it is so the best solution is solution when you have need do, when you do not need to write code at all. So that's the best solution. So you will come to this understanding after a year so of practice. Okay, now let's get to the next. For example, remove. Okay, how we do remove items. So E here stands for index. So we will need to remove some element by index. For example, here, I don't know. Okay, let's remove this something that is stored by index 1. So let me rewrite this here. Okay, we have removed this. What do we need to do next? We need to take all these elements. So we do not let here be some empty slot because because we will then need some additional this index that will shows us that this slot is empty, but really, but storing this information costs additional memory. So that's much easier to do. What to do is just move all the elements that come after removed, and here just shift them by one position, like this. And here it is this become one more extra slot. And the important part to move this insertion index by one position left. So we have removed one element, so we have one more extra extra free slot. So let's write it. So function still is public. When we remove item, we do not expect any return. So remove and just remove. Remove, and parameter is int. Let's call it idx. Okay, let's just copy paste here this checking. So we cannot remove in this element if index is in illegal range. And now what we need to do. So actually we do not even need to somehow delete this element. We can just simply overwrite. So take all this and move here. So this this element will override. That is okay. Let me okay. So we're deleting this element. So what do we? If we just take all these elements and shift by one position on the left, so this value will be simply overridden. So for this, we're doing just not another for loop with only one special condition. So this iterator, so we need to move elements to left starting from this removing index. So not from 0, but starting from here. And what we're doing, and we're performing this operation until not array length, but until this index. Okay, so let's shift these elements. So our inner array by index e is now equal to the next element, e plus 1. So e plus 1 will be next element. So earlier we had value 3 here. Now we're telling that this element at this position is equal to this one. So 2 becomes here. On the next loop iterator, what happens? We're telling that next element from array is now current. So 7 will goes here. And so on until the end of loop. Okay, so how to test it? Awesome list, remove, and here we bring index 1. So we will remove this element. And just to check that our collection has mutated, let's call function print self. So this will print this all inner state. Wow, okay, I have written a little bug here. So what I forgot to do, so okay, I have shifted these elements on one position left, but I have forgot to tell that our index here, we need to make it, we need to switch it to previous position because so we have shifted those elements and now we have one extra free slot. So what I'm doing here, index minus minus. So minus minus is the same like this. So just like plus plus, but minus minus. Let's run one more time. Well, okay, so seems like our collection is mutated and doesn't contain value 3. Okay, please rewrite this implementation. And also calling code. So one more time, what we're doing here? We're telling that we're shifting elements. So we're telling basically that current element is equal to next element. By this, we're taking next element and moving to previous position. So it's just shifting elements by one. Current element is now assigned as next element. But we are starting to do it not from array start, but from removing index. So because we're removing this value at position 1, elements that are comes before this removing element, they need to stay the same. So they have to be left untouched. So that's because we are starting to perform this position, so this element shift from so starting point will be exactly this index. So because this removing index will be first overwritten, and all next elements will, so they will just shift by one, and this element will become just overwritten. Okay, do you have now questions about this remove function? So these 3 lines of code, let's call them just boilerplate check. So the main was these 4 lines of code. Okay, so here we got some. So okay, the sequels, that's really extra and complicated, so let does not look on it. Okay, add all and add by index. So these two are really, so here we need to think a little bit how to add a collection. Okay, let's open our Excel back again. So after getting to this state, for example, we want to add some array that, for example, like this. Okay, something like that. Okay, so actually so what we need to check, the first check will be, can we put can we put, do we have so much these free slots to fit this new array? In our case, seems like no. So we will need to grow, and only then we should create add these values in a loop starting from this position. Actually, we uh, just can call add function for taking one element one by one from here and putting to here. So yes, the best way to do it, even without additional checking. So we already have add function, and what we actually, so this add function have all the checks necessary when we need to grow or when do we need to do it. So actually what we can to do is just take some elements from this incoming array and simply call add function. Then take next element, call add function, take next element, call add function, and so on. So let's try. So this function still will be public. Our add function was void because adding doesn't return anything. So add all will be still void. Add all. And here's important moment about these parameters. So when here we added just a single value of type int. In function add all, we're expecting array of ints. Let's call them values. And Okay, so just I have described before, we can just call function add with values that comes from this this incoming array. So here let's define some array to add is equal to new int. Okay, what values do we have here? So just let me put extra commas here. And now awesome list dot add all. So we have function add and add all. Add for single element, add all for array of elements. Array to add, and here we're passing this array. So type of variable and type of this parameter should be same. And after we have performed this add all function, let's check by calling print self. Sorry, here. Just a new line. Okay, so here we had this previous state after removing one element, and now here we have added array of 6 elements into our awesome list. So looks like we have successfully added them, and now our collection, our awesome list contains both old values and here appended new values. So seems like working. So please rewrite this as all function and this calling code. Don't forget this extra print line command to distinguish previous print self function and new one. So just for additional clearance, let's debug what happens here. So here comes the parameter values. So this -6, 3, -5, and so on. So this array stored here inside variable array to add, here it is a parameter. So we do not necessarily need to name variables here and here the same. So they can have different names, but what you put here will be stored here. So so the only thing that needs to match is variable type, this integer array and integer array here, and this parameter position. So okay, here this array is called values, and here it is the past values. So what we're doing here? So we are just iterating over this income array. So taking first element from this array, it is -6, and we are just calling function add that we have defined from the very beginning. Okay, and what happens here? We're checking the array length. So the condition, do we need to grow or not? Okay, we have 3 slots inside, and we're just adding value to current index, increasing the index for next insertion, and getting back. So we have added value from this array, incoming array, to our innerly stored array, to our collection. So happens with the next values. We're just taking next value from this incoming array and adding this to our collection. So simply just like we have done manually before, but we're doing this in a loop. Okay, is this clear now about this function at all? Okay, so the last thing we have this function adding with index. So this will stay your extra homework. So we already spent 50 minutes on previous functions, so this will remain your extra homework. So if you wish, then try to do it. So this will not be so simple like this one. And about this equals, so better just forget about it. That's because that's may clash with Java. Well, let's say Java based built-in Java functions. So just ignore this. Okay, now let's try, not really try, but let's start a new topic. So today I wanted uh, to talk about strings. Okay, here inside loop package or OP package, let's create one more sub package and call it strings, but please be assured here that you name it with lowercase. And then inside new class called string basics with main function inside. So here we will not create additional classes. We will perform everything inside main functions. So create one sub-package inside OP called strings, then new class called string basics and main function. Okay, so actually we already worked with strings all the time. So every time when we're printing something on a screen, so this character sequences inside quotes are strings. So string s1 is equal hello world, for example. So we have done this multiple times already. Okay, but that's not the only one possibility to create a string. So string, it's not a primitive in Java, like integer or long or something else. Uh, not really something else, but we have a predefinite number of primitives. So int, long, short, byte, float, double, boolean. String is not a primitive. String is an object. That's why we have talked a lot about object-oriented programming before taking strings. So because string, it's a built-in Java class. So you see how huge this is and how much functions inside it has. But, well, you see, usually we have created objects with keyword new. So we can do the same also for string. Hello world. But idea says that is redundant because so what does Java compiler? So it will anyway convert this what here is taken in a quote to new string. So that's Java compiler this inner hints. So usually we are defining strings like this without this extra new string. So so we're defining like this, but Java compiler just puts this when compiling this Java code, he will put this extra new string on its own. One more way to create a string is to create it from char array. New char somehow like this. And now string s3 is equal to new string, and here we're giving this array. So this string has multiple constructors. So usually before we have created only one constructor, but technically it's possible to create multiple constructors. So for string, it is, well, you see how much they are. So I don't know how much, 15 maybe. So one of its constructors is from a char array. So that's also a way to create a string. But again, usually we will have this one. So let's simply print uh, those recently created strings and check that they are working. So please rewrite this example. Okay, if it is done, let's wait one more minute because here it is a lot of code to rewrite. And here's the important moment I have shown about this character array. So usually you will not create strings like this, but here's important moment that string basically, so it is wrapper around character array. And so what does it mean? String has inside an array of characters, and this character array is, let's say, final. So it is so-called immutable. All string class is immutable. So you cannot just take and change some you cannot put extra symbols to a string because this array inner is final, and why uh, that's why this string will not be the same. And due to multiple another reasons, string class is immutable. That means that every function of the strings you are calling will give you uh, another string. I'll show you this in short moment. So let's look on the slides. Theoretical we have so string. Yes, it's technically it's string of characters. So every string inside has inside array of chars. String are is object, not like primitives we had before. And yes, instead of having yes, it also has length method instead of instead of lengths that we have for arrays. Okay, let's, for example, print this string first, but but like we are doing, we would do it like with an array. So let's write for loop. So s1 dot length. So for array, we have this length just as a property, but in case of strings, this length is a function. E++, and we cannot get values from string by the square brackets, so like from array, but we can do it in another way. We have function, this string class has a lot of functions. So if you type s1 dot and then control space, so you will have here a round of I don't know, I think something close to 100 functions. So we will not take them all. We will concentrate all on the most important. So if we need to take some char from array by index, so we cannot do this by square brackets. We have a special function for that called char add. And here we pass an integer, so we can write this value just like as immediate value from, for example, 5, 7, or so on, or it can be, for example, this loop iterator. So let's run again. So we have printed this string char by char. So please rewrite this example, and it's better now to use these comments for easy easy searching in later, because well, it will be quite difficult to remember all that functions. So please write some additional comments of functions and what does they do. So print string char by char, in loop char add function. So talking about the strings and its functions. So when you press Ctrl space, here on the left you see function names, and here on the right you see return types. So char add function returns char. So we can prove that by going inside this function implementation. So if you press the left Control key and mouse left button, you will navigate to this function. So here now we're looking to a code inside Java itself. So Java platform has a lot of helpful classes like this, like string. So here's a lot of documentation. What does this function do? What does it return? What parameters expect? So at param called index, the index of value. What does it return? Value at specified index of this string, and so on. So here, so function char add will return us a char. Okay, let's look now on some next useful functions of string. So the first one will be converting string to uppercase, and so we can do it then with lowercase. So s1 dot to uppercase. And here's the important moment about immutability. So to uppercase, that is function that's green text. Which green text? Sorry, I really did not understand the question. So if I just call function to uppercase, just here, here's where's navigator between files. So I have just closed this file, and now here I'm back in the class string basics. So you can easily navigate between these classes. Okay, let's get back to uppercase. So I'm starting this important thought from the first time. So if you will simply call function to uppercase, this will not change anything. Let's just prove this. Let's print this S1 one more time. So after here, after a loop, let's print empty line just for going to a new line. And let's call this function to uppercase and print this S1 variable. So we see that it is the same as it was before. It is not in uppercase. Here, even idea shows us a hint that a result of string to uppercase is ignored. Why it happens so? So that's the moment of string class immutability. So due a lot of reasons, these strings should not be mutable. So we should not change value of previous string. But when we call functions that mutate the state, for example, converting the string all chars to uppercase, this function returns us a new string. So again, here I see to uppercase in the left its function name, and what does it return? It returns a string. So so let's here write a comment like result is ignored as one the same. And now let's here save result of this function to uppercase in some another variable. So let's name this variable s1u, that stands for s1 uppercase. is equal to s1 dot to uppercase. So I'm calling the same function, but I'm saving result to a different variable. And now let's print it. s1u. And look, we have the string in uppercase. So for now, please rewrite this, how much, 6 lines of code. So after this printing char by char, just print a new line. So we would go to a new line and then try to call uppercase without saving the results. Here we are checking that s1 string did not change because string is immutable. And here we will do the same, just by saving the result of this mutation inside another variable, and just print it. Okay, if it is done, and now please tell me, uh, is this moment clear about this string immutability and how to understand how to properly use string functions? So when we call char add functions, we are not mutating we're not trying to mutate this string. So we're just getting not a string, but we are getting a char. So this is some special function that does not change the string, that just returns us some char by index. But functions, for example, to uppercase, so that changes it's trying to change the inner string. And that's why we should save the results of such functions inside new variables. So is this moment clear? Okay, if it is clear, let's check it. So your small practical assignment, take this string s1u and convert this to lowercase. So the result will be hello world, but all letters will be lowercase, including these starting letters. So they all will be in lowercase. So I give you 2 minutes on that. So you're so fast. Okay. So S1U. So function will be called to lowercase. Okay, let's save it to variable S1L and let's print it. Okay, seems like working. So I hope you have the same. Okay, now let's talk about other useful functions. What do string provide? So the first one, mm, so the first one will be related to searching or some some let's say chars or substrings inside of original. For example, uh, let's create a new string. Uh, let's call it okay S4. Better, let's call it text. Okay, and here's the string. So I had this. Hmm. I hope I had this inside theory. Okay, the quick brown fox jumps over lazy dog. I don't remember why we have used such string in previous group, but well, okay, that's does what it needs. Okay, so here we have some text, and here I'll show you two ways how to find uh, effects of uh, this string contains something or not. Okay, so here are two functions. Contains, uh, so this function will return us boolean. So contains will just by its name can return us can answer to our question, does string contains some text, is so if we will ask string, do you contain a word fox inside you, so it can answer us with yes or no. So yes or no, it's logical fact. So the result of this function will be boolean. So text contains fox, contains okay, let's call it contains fox. uh, so idea told us this is always true because that's a little bit obvious for her. And let's print this result. So function contains uh, accepts as a parameter some other string uh, and returns us Boolean variable. So this can be just true or false. So we have tested this string on containing substring called fox. So here it is, and we got the result true. So please rewrite this example, and then I'll show you next way how to search inside a string. Okay, sometimes we need to understand where really inside this substring is located. So we need to know the precise index. For such purpose, we can use a function called index of. So index of also accepts another string, and this function index of returns as integer. Index of Fox here. So this integer will contain index where this substring starts. So let's count together what will be this value. So here this char t is at the index 0. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. So this f will be located at index 16 or 17, so maybe I have counted incorrectly. But so each character here inside a string has its own index. And this one will be, so when string will find this substring in itself, it will return this index where it starts. So let's print this number. Well, I have counted correctly, so this index will be 16. So please rewrite this example. Okay, now I have a question to you. If we are putting some text, for example, something another. For example, I'm searching for cheesecake. So what I will, how do you think what I will get here inside this variable? So do not rewrite and run this code. Just let's imagine. So what will be returned here if original string does not contain substring? Okay, no, that's good guess, but int primitive cannot contain null. So null, so int cannot contain null. Yes, you've got -1, but I have asked you not to run this code. Okay, so 0, that's also a good guess, but that's not really correct because 0, that's absolutely correct index in case if we're searching, for example, word the. So the word the will start from index 0. But yes, so why really -1? Because index of something, if it is found, can be always bigger than 0. So that's just like an index of some element in array. It can't be negative. So if function returns -1 uh, in this search, so that does mean that element is not found. So let's try for the. So that's a good example because because 0 it's absolutely legal index. So index of the is equal to 0, and that's really correct because this word starts from index 0. So here this the first symbol is really at index 0. But because we do not have cheesecake inside this string, so this function returns impossible index. So impossible index, that's -1. Please rewrite these two examples. So here I'll put additional comments. Okay, if it is done, it is now clear about this index of function. So as of my experience, this contains function is used quite rarely, but index of is used well quite often. So if it is done and it's clear how this index of works, by the way, you can press Ctrl and left mouse button, and you can read documentation. So return the index of the first occurrence of the specified substring, or -1 if there is no such occurrence. So, well, good question about several matches. We will talk about that after a break. So please try to navigate inside this function and read documentation. Because as of also of my experience, you will read a lot of another documentation to understand how some classes work. So this useful skill for every developer to carefully read documentation. Okay, now let's create a break till 2020, and then we will continue.